Hello, Gokul.
Good afternoon.
Your name is Gokul, is that it?
Yes, sir.
So you have 4 people in front of you
Sir.
who are going to now have a conversation with you. Okay? You are from Thiruvananthapuram,
Yes, sir.
and this is your first attempt in the civil service.
Yes, sir. First.
Good.
Thank you, sir.
You are a BA in English literature
Okay.
from the MAC, from the Mar Divinius College
Yes, sir.
here in Trivandrum. And I find that your first choice is for the IAS followed by the Foreign Service.
Yes, sir.
Now, tell me, why is it that you want to join government service?
Sir, I think probably because I believe that it is the only platform where, say, I can bring the whole potential of myself to the table, sir. Because what I have observed is, for a differently able person like me, primarily a private firm wouldn't be really willing to even experiment with me, number one. And number two, even if you consider the government service, I've observed in offices and all that, when differently able people get qualified, these departments take them in because legally they have to. But as a class 3 or class 2 officer, they are not really allowed to do anything. They are just given a desk or something, and probably no work is assigned to them. So I believe that this is probably the only kind of platform where I can bring my potential to the table. And actually, this is the kind of platform where I can be part of the change, so to speak.
No, that's a good idea that you have.
Thank you.
But the civil service, the IAS, is also functioning in the same social milieu as your class 2 or class 3.
Sir.
It is true that in the IAS you are wherever you are posted, you're likely to be the head of that particular office. It will not be that somebody else has to judge you. But let me start by asking you what you see as your potential. Sorry?
No, sorry.
Illa. What is it that you see as your potential?
Sir, I would say that I would say 2 things. Number one, sir, probably if in the current scenario, probably I can be of service to the government in that I can think about things which probably no other IAS officer would be able to think about. Because if you are, say, promoting inclusive growth, if you are looking at marginalized sections, probably I could be able to understand the concerns of such sections better than, say, someone else. For instance, if you are designing policies for the differently abled, if you are looking at such sections, I could be of service to the government more than, say, someone else.
That is one. What other potential would you have?
Sir?
What other potential? This is one potential that you described. That you could be of service in government, servicing the differently able. That is one. What is the other potential that you have?
Sir, I believe that I can bring to the table a kind of positivity, a kind of consensus building whereby I could coordinate things. Say, I could bring everyone along. I could make consensus and thus decision making possible.
You're a consensus builder.
Yes, sir. I would say that.
So that's good. So far your first assumption is concerned. There are others. For some years, in fact, since I used to be director of the National Academy of Administration in the early part of the century. In fact, the century opened 2003. So we had started taking differently abled people into the services.
Yes.
So there are differently abled people in the services who are able to provide the necessary inputs for the government to fashion its policies. Besides which, the government has a number of institutes and organizations within the government which can help them in that. But that does not diminish from your own point that you would be able to provide missing input in areas where you have not, where the differently abled have not so far been engaged. So that point is well taken. But now, coming to the point that you will join why is it that the IAS, this facility which you can provide, can be provided in any of the other services? I agree. You have not qualified for the police. You don't qualify for the police service, but you do qualify, for example, for the foreign service, and that is one of your choices here. Why is it that you prefer the IAS?
Sir, I would say that, of course, sir. To be very honest, the social prestige, the kind of glamour which is associated with the service would be involved. But sir, at the same time, in such a position, I would say that I would be a kind of, I would be someone for the society to look up to, someone for say marginalized people, someone for say challenged people to look up to, because I would be a kind of person at whom they can look and say, okay, if he has achieved it, we can also strive for that.
Very good.
That is why, sir, initially I said that I could be part of the change. That is the kind of change I would envision.
Very good.
Thank you.
Gokul,
Sir.
I understand that you work as a volunteer
Sir.
in the relief operations of Kerala floods.
Yes, sir.
Can you share with about some of your experiences?
Sir, actually, I would say that it was one of the extremely empowering experiences I had. Actually, what happened was during the Kerala floods, during the initial 1-2 days, I have been extremely active during my college days, in my college and all. And during the floods, what happened was, everyone was actually going out and helping with the volunteering activity. Whole of Trivandrum was in fact involved. And I was rather depressed that I couldn't do anything. I was sitting at home and I couldn't contribute in any way. And I was rather depressed about the whole thing. And it was during the time, actually, one of my junior friends called me up for something else. And I shared with him what I was feeling. After 5-6 minutes, he called me back and said, okay, I've given your number to phone number to a couple of people. All you will have to do is to coordinate. As in, you will have to inform what is needed where, and you will have to coordinate with all these people. I started out by doing that, and the next day I was sitting here at the Kanakakundu Palace, and I was part of the team that was doing the overall social media coordination. Sir, what I would say is that was a really empowering experience. That was one of those things which proved to me that, okay, if I came into something like civil service, I could be doing something. People would be willing to take me in, and I could in fact make a change happen.
What is your opinion?
Sir.
There are two ways of looking at the whole thing. A particular group says that it was all because of the mismanagement of dams that caused the flood, and we have yet another people telling us that it is because of the monsoon. What is your understanding?
Sir, I would say that both would be involved. Of course, there is climate change, and as we know, the rains which were supposed to be distributed over 4 months actually came down in 4 days, and that was one reason. At the same time, there was the problem. We know Kerala has over 80 dams, small and big, around 39 big dams, which is an ecological concern, and there was dam related data wasn't really available for perusal. Dam mismanagement was of course there, but then I think that both were involved. There were excessive monsoon coupled with these logistical problems related with the dams.
You are also a crusader against plastic.
Yes, sir.
government has issued an order banning plastic carry bags.
Sir.
But even then, you find plastic coming in.
Of course.
For many of the branded products, it comes in attractive packages
Sir.
of plastic. What is the ultimate solution to this menace?
Sir, I would say that as representatives of plastic-free campus, we used to advocate two policies. Number one, as much as possible, switch into a plastic-free mode, especially single-use plastics. As much as possible, we have to give up. But then there are, of course, situations where plastic is a necessity. In such cases, what we used to advocate, what we still advocate is there are biodegradable plastics, which are, of course, more costly than non-biodegradable plastics. But then compared with the ecological cost, these biodegradable plastics would be very beneficial. And as I understand, Amazon and such platforms are beginning to switch into biodegradable plastics. So I would say that would be one of the things. That would be one thing to focus on.
So Gokul, you're from Tirumala, right?
Yeah, ma'am.
Do you know the connection between Tirumala and the famous Sri Padmanabhaswamy temple?
Actually, ma'am, I've read that the idol, there is this so-called Ottakal Mandapam in the temple. This single stone was taken from Tirumala, and that is how it got the name.
Yeah, that's a huge, in fact it's a matter of great curiosity how that huge slab of stone, granite, was actually taken from Tirumala to the temple to make the mandapam. Very nice. Also, you have participated in a lot of debates, and that's in school time or college?
Ma'am, I started participating in elocutions from the school time itself. I really got established, so to speak, during my college time.
Do you recall any interesting topic for debate that you participated?
Ma'am, last time in the National Inter-University Youth Festival 2019, we got a topic were the poverty alleviation programs of Indian government over the years really successful.
What was your opinion?
I spoke for the motion, that is, I suggested that they were really beneficial, they did their thing.
Okay. Another thing I notice, I'm an archaeologist, so when these monuments and museums that we see, besides overall in India, mobility for a specially able person is very difficult.
Yeah.
So especially I feel that in monuments and museums, where these are basically centers of education, there is very little concern for specially able people. What do you feel about it? I mean, if as a person aspiring to be an IAS officer, what role do you think you would have to play in these kind of instances?
Ma'am, actually, to be very honest, I travel a lot, and I like traveling a lot. And what I have observed is, there are certainly a lot of problems. Number one, even when we speak of accessibility, the concerns could be broadly divided into 2-3 categories. Number one, for the print disabled, including the visually impaired, these signboards and all, they are never accessible. If you look at monuments and museums, there are all these descriptions which are really not accessible for the print disabled. Then, of course, say mobility disabled, for wheelchair users and all, they face more of a challenge because there aren't ramps, there aren't wheelchair-friendly toilets, and they face more of a challenge. So, what I would say is, there are many low-hanging fruits in this area which can easily be plucked. Ramp enabling, for instance, is not very much of a problem. There wouldn't be a huge economic investment needed. There would be small structural changes needed. if only a bit of administrative care could be focused on this area, that could very easily be solved now.
But let me ask you a follow-up question.
Sir.
When you talk of ramps, no doubt are easily installed, but it could, installing ramps could mean, even though a small project on its own, would mean interfering with the archaeological structure in order to convert it into a ramp. Would you think that that is worthwhile?
No, sir. Sir, I don't suggest that we should do that. In fact,
what do you suggest?
sir, I do think that as far as such monuments are concerned, we should not structurally change them. I mean, the syncretic character, the character of the archaeological structure itself should not be changed. But then there are external constructions. Of course, then there are other means like lifts and stuff which could be used to enable wheelchair mobility in such cases.
Or wooden ramps which can be removed.
That is also there, sir. When we do programs and all, we use such mobile ramps for in stages and all, and also airlines also uses mobile ramps. These could also be used.
Gokul, you're a literature student.
Sir?
You're a literature student.
Yeah.
Who was your favorite classic?
Sir,
My
my
favorite classical author
uh,
during your study, during your BA course.
sir, I read a lot of Shakespeare. Then if you ask of modern classical authors, I would say T.S. Eliot was a real favorite. T.S. Eliot was someone whom I really loved, so to speak.
Which work of T.S. Eliot is your favorite?
Sir, Wasteland considerably influenced me. Of course, it influences everyone. It also influenced me, so to speak.
That was my favorite also, that's why I was asked.
What about the American classic writers? Do you have any favorites among them?
American, sir, I haven't really read much into American, except for, say, what I had to do as part of my curriculum.
Who's that?
Sir, I would say Poe was a real favorite because he used to write a lot of these psychological and detective tales and all.
Okay. In Shakespeare, which is the play that you sort of influenced you? Let's say that.
Sir, Macbeth was the first one I really read with that kind of a literature kind of approach. So Macbeth made an impression on me.
What aspect of Macbeth made an impression on you?
Sir, Lady Macbeth sort of really influenced me. I think Lady Macbeth is a character which made this imprint on me.
You mentioned reading fantasy.
Sir.
What's that?
Sir, reading fantasy, I've been reading fantasy for quite some time now, and I'm doing my PhD. PhD is also connected with fantasy literature. Of course, fantasy, speaking of reading fantasy, someone like J.R.R. Tolkien, then modern writers like, the contemporary writers like George R.R. Martin and all, Robert Jordan and all, have been pretty interesting. They have made me kind of come to my PhD thesis topic.
You're jumping straight from, you've done your MA as well, okay.
I did my
MA as well, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Then you can and I really have very little advice to give you because I think that you were able to handle all the questions that you put quite ably, and that is what you need to do before the board. Because you need to convince them that even in your condition you are quite capable of handling any task that you will be given, and I think you've succeeded in convincing us that that is the case. So that is really the question of how you fared. So is there any comment from anyone?
Very impressive, Gokul, and we wish you all the best. When is the interview?
24 February.
Okay.
Not long.
Not so far away.
So all the very best.
All the best.
And since you are an admirer of T.S. Eliot,
Sir.
I have an aunt who's written a book in English on India. It's called Sunlight on a Broken Column. Her name is Atiya Hussain.
Okay.
And Sunlight on a Broken Column is a line taken from T.S. Eliot. Those eyes are wasteland. Those eyes I never dared to face even in dreams. Those eyes are sunlight on a broken column. So the name occurred to me because she takes it from T.S. Eliot, and I thought that if you give a time you could read. It's a book about Lucknow. So now since I'm going to be joining the service, hopefully, we might get posted in Lucknow, so that could be a...
So all the best, Gokul.
Thank you.
Wish you all the very best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.